much discussion on what best or how best to develop the Indo-Pacific region, and we believe a decision to invest $50 billion within the Indo-Pacific region has been made by the 4 Quad nations, including India, Japan, Australia and the United States. Apart from that, of course, we're seeing a bid by the Prime Minister to position India as an investment hub. This is what the Prime Minister has said time and again, and that's what he tries to do as he positions the country as the best place for investment at this point. Of course, a lot of talk on trade, on defense, on investments was made and was put forth on the table by Prime Minister Modi as he had one-on-one conversations with Australian Prime Minister as well as United States Prime Minister Joe Biden. Well, Prime Minister Modi has been hailed for his preparedness on the COVID-19. Of course, the way the country has fought back, the vaccine rollout, all of that was extensively discussed. And post that appreciation and praise came the real discussion on trade, on investment, defense, and a lot more. Of course, this Quad summit now to be deciding on discussing extensively on development within the Indo-Pacific region. Now, Prime Minister Modi is speaking with the former Prime Minister of Japan. But, of course, one saw the kind of bonhomie that Prime Minister shared with United States Prime Minister Joe Biden. This is a one-on-one bilateral talk that he's had with Joe Biden to further strengthen United States and India's mutual ties. Now, at the bilateral meeting with the Prime Minister, Narendra Modi and the United States President both shared much conversation and commitment to strengthen US-India partnership and ties, and also said that that the bond between the two nations, both the Prime Ministers agreed that the bond between the United States and India has only grown leaps and bounds over the last few years. The talk particularly stressed on the post-pandemic recovery. Now, recovery in terms of the economy, trade, investments, technology, and also creating a resilient US-India supply chain. This is what exactly was discussed between Joe Biden and Prime Minister Modi. Both the world leaders have now been in regular contact through virtual and in-person meets. Now, of course, this comes very crucial. Joe Biden and Prime Minister Narendra Modi meeting comes very crucial at a point where we're seeing an all-out war in Ukraine by Russia, where India has maintained a diplomatic stance, has maintained mum, while Joe Biden and the United States, of course, have been largely hitting out at Russia and condemning it for the large-scale war crimes that's been carried out. So amid this kind of animosity, we see that the two world leaders, United States President Joe Biden and India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi, both of them had a healthy discussion and a talk on strengthening India-US relationship, on how the two countries can really bolster ties when it comes to trade, when it comes to investment, defense, and a lot more that was talked upon. The two have met virtually, again, like I mentioned, last 3 occasions. This seems like the first in-person meet where Prime Minister Modi and Joe Biden spoke extensively face-to-face. This Quad virtual summit that was held in March 2021. Due to the pandemic, it was virtual. There was the meeting on similar lines and similar agenda happened virtually at that point. So this certainly has come as the first in-person meeting between the global leaders.
क्वाड और कल घोषित आईपीएफ इसके सक्रिय उदाहरण हैं। आज हमारी चर्चा से इस पॉजिटिव मोमेंटम को और गति मिलेगी। मुझे विश्वास है कि भारत और अमेरिका की मित्रता, वैश्विक शांति और स्थिरता, प्लेनेट की सस्टेनेबिलिटी और मानव जाति के कल्याण के लिए एक फोर्स फॉर गुड बनी रहेगी। हम दोनों ही देश के इंडो पैसिफिक क्षेत्र के बारे में भी समान नजरिया रखते हैं और न सिर्फ द्विपक्षीय स्तर पर बल्कि अन्य लाइक माइंडेड देशों के साथ अपने साझा मूल्यों और साझा हितों को सुरक्षित रखने के लिए काम कर रहे हैं। हमारे पीपल टू पीपल रिलेशंस और घनिष्ठ आर्थिक संबंधों में भी हमारी पार्टनरशिप को यूनिक बनाते हैं। हमारे बीच ट्रेड और निवेश में भी निरंतर विस्तार होता जा रहा है, यद्यपि ये हमारे पोटेंशियल से अभी बहुत कम है। मुझे विश्वास है कि हमारे बीच इंडिया यूएसए इन्वेस्टमेंट इंसेंटिव एग्रीमेंट से निवेश की दिशा में कॉन्क्रीट प्रगति देखने को मिलेगी.
We also discussed the ongoing effects of Russia's brutal and unjustified invasion of Ukraine and the effect it has on the entire global world order. And the U.S. and India are going to continue consulting closely on how to mitigate these negative effects. I'm pleased that we've reached agreement for the U.S. Development Finance Corporation to continue its important work in India, supporting vaccine production, clean energy initiatives, and I'm also glad we're renewing the Indo-U.S. Vaccine Action Program. The Indo-Pacific Economic Framework and the Indo-Pacific Maritime Domain Awareness Program that's going to bring India and the United States together with other nations to reflect our vision for a more open, more prosperous, connected, and secure world.
All right, we saw the kind of bond that the two shared, the bonhomie rather, between the two nations. But this certainly has come as a huge boost for India at this point, because the Quad Summit indeed appreciated India's efforts extensively on multiple grounds. Let me take you through some of those key takeaways that we saw of this Quad Summit. Now, we see that this is indeed big testimony to India's Vishwaguru prowess. In fact, Biden's impromptu praise of Prime Minister Modi's governance was another takeaway, where he literally deviated from his prepared speech to praise Prime Minister Modi and India's bounce back after COVID-19. And of course, the kind of appreciation and the comparison that the Quad nation leaders made of India's fight with COVID-19 versus China's fight, which was an epic failure. And then a takeaway 4 here of this entire the Quad summit, where we're looking at Biden speaking of how Prime Minister Modi has really shown how democracies as large as India can really deliver. And then, of course, Japan, Australia praising India about Indian vaccine rollout and how it's really saved the world. And several nations who've received Indian vaccines have really appreciated it and shown much gratitude over this supply. We're also looking at the praises for Prime Minister Modi's flagship vaccine, Maitri. It's not one but 2 vaccines that India rolled out, and India was really extensively generous while giving out vaccines to several nations who were at that point in desperate and dire need. Now, we're also looking at this Quad meet becoming the biggest assertion here, undoubtedly, for India's rising global stature. Gaurav Sawant, who's tracking these developments there at the Quad Summit, tells us more on that. Gaurav, give us your perspective on how you see the Quad nation leaders really appreciating India's bounce back and many layers of credit that they gave to India when it comes to vaccine rollout, the way that we fought the pandemic and compared to China, and just to see how India is rising in the global stage, or a global stature that we really now can boast of. Makes us proud. Prime Minister Modi, who's currently at that meet, visuals coming in live of the Quad Summit. What's to be expected post this Quad meeting today?
The efforts to checkmate China and the efforts to ensure that rule-based order is followed in the Indo-Pacific region. And that is where India will play a very critical role, in not just in the Indian Ocean, but also in the Pacific Ocean, because this is where the 4 powerful democracies come together: Australia, Japan, India, and the United States of America, to ensure rule-based order is followed, sea lanes of communication remain safe, and dark fishing, and this is something that all countries are emphasizing on. Again, an effort to checkmate China, because dark fishing, dark shipping is something that talks a lot about illegal activities at sea. Dark shipping has a lot to do with either illegal fishing or smuggling and a lot of other activities that technology can play a very key role in checkmating. So that is how you ensure that countries like China, that are increasingly becoming more expansionist, not just in South and East China Sea, but also in Aksai Chin, Ladakh, that is where a rule-based order is followed. So there is a tremendous emphasis on how Quad countries need to come together and use technology.